Radio Free Santa Clarita presents The Talk of Santa Clarita, a podcast about issues involving Santa Clarita and the surrounding valley. With your host, Stephen Daniels. Episode 172. Democratic candidate for the 25th Congressional District, Quaye Quartey. And now, let's see what the Talk of Santa Clarita is.
And remember, this is for posterity, so be honest.
Quaye Quarterly. Is it quarterly?
Quartey.
Quartey.
Yes, sir.
Is that what is that? French?
It's Ghanaian. So my father immigrated from West Africa in the 1970s. Mm-hmm. So my full name is John Ni Kwatu Quaye Quartey II. So it's a very proud Ghanaian name from Accra.
All right, it's I've never met anybody with the name Quaye.
Well, you're going to meet two because there's me, and then my son has the same name, so he's the third. So we call him Trey, so the Quaye. So
Trey to the Quaye, just to confuse people.
Trey or Quaye, exactly. Confuse my wife.
Let's talk a little bit about you, just in general, so people get to know you a little bit about, where did you grow up at?
Yes, I grew up in the San Francisco East Bay, so Concord, California, not far from Berkeley and Oakland.
Okay.
Grew up a Jerry Rice fan, the third of 5 boys, so a very competitive household. And like I said earlier, my father came from Ghana, so growing up as an immigrant household, being that my father came here, and then most immigrants, either they assimilated or hold in their culture. He did a little bit of both, whereas my mother's from Florida. And so she brought the Christian background to our household, even though my father's like the son of a minister. But Concord, California, loved it. NorCal person, native Californian.
I was impressed with your resume when I was looking at your history, your bio.
Thank you.
You played varsity football for the U.S. Naval Academy.
Yes.
Obviously went to the U.S. Naval Academy. You also did track.
I did.
What did you do? What did you do in track?
So it started in high school, to be honest. In the Bay Area, I went to De La Salle High School, and that's one of the best high schools in the state. And for a while, they won for like 10 years straight. Which, sadly, my last high school game was the last time they lost before they wanted to run for a decade. So we're that class. But started there, and then just being athletic and running around because 5 boys. My mom's like, get outside. Get out of the house, go do something, give me a peace of mind. She really wanted a girl, never got a girl. So we're always outside playing sports, and that's where I found the love of sports and competition. So I took that to the Naval Academy as I was recruited to play football there. But with track and field, I did the 200, I did the 4x1. I was mostly like a triple and long jumper, but I had enough speed to compete at that level for a little bit.
Wow. Yeah. Do you think maybe you achieved enough? Because really, you just make me look bad.
No. No, trust me. I've always known that I've never been the best at anything. But I've been better than the average person. I mean, I've played and competed with and against some amazing athletes. Like a good friend of mine, Amani Toomer, De La Salle High School, played for the Giants, won a Super Bowl. There's a variety of people like that. So I've not accomplished a lot. I've been blessed to be around a lot of great people that have pushed me and helped me earn some opportunities.
You served in Kosovo and Iraq during those 2 wars. Is that correct?
Yes. So the Kosovo War, to understand that, I was on the aircraft carrier, the Teddy Roosevelt. So I was attached to an EA-6B squadron, which doesn't really exist anymore, as a prowler out of Washington State. And we were stationed on the Teddy Roosevelt. So we flew from Washington State to get to Norfolk. We got in position when President Clinton was the president then, off the boot of Italy, and we started launching combat operations in the Kosovo. So I served in that capacity. And towards the latter part of the war, yes, I got a few traps to go over country, over land, in combat, and actually see what it looks like as an intel professional, which was one of the highlights of my military career. And then Iraq, being in the Middle East, southern Iraq is where I served and did a lot of things from Bahrain.
What was your opinion on those 2 wars? What did you think about them? I mean, I know it's tough when you're in the armed services and the armed forces, and you can't really make an opinion. But I mean, you're out now. 2020 is in hindsight. I'm just wondering, What, as far as the politics go with those two wars, what do you think about them?
Well, as a Christian, first and foremost, I try hard not to pass judgment on other people. Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to turn around hindsight. I served in those capacities in those wars with my classmates and teammates and shipmates and so on and so forth. The wars were fought. I followed the lawful orders of the commander-in-chief. And I thought that we came in for the right reasons, especially Kosovo. We came in for the right reasons because as an intel professional, I saw that they were committing genocide in Kosovo against the Kosovars. And that's something that we wanted to prevent. What happened to Rwanda and Burundi during that time frame, we did not act fast enough, and it was horrible genocide there. So I thought Kosovo was a war that was fought for the right reasons.
Right.
And Milosevic went to war tribunals, and he was murdered or he died beforehand, killed himself, suicide. Whereas the Iraq War, yes, it's not so easy to look at that. Same with Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Again, as a soldier, as a sailor, I'm serving next to the person to me, and I want to make sure I do everything I can and not think about the politics. And it's kind of hard now to divorce myself from that.
Yeah.
So that's really a tough question. But I believe in the great men and women that serve and put their lives on the line, some that didn't come back because of that, that we were fighting for a worthy cause.
Do you think we should be pulling out of Afghanistan right now?
That's a very complicated thing. That's been a war that we've been fighting for almost 2 decades now. And it's interesting that you mentioned that because we're coming up on the cusp of 20 years since 9/11.
I know, yeah.
So think about that. 9/11, the entire world galvanized behind George W. Bush and America to go after Al-Qaeda and like-minded extremists. But here we are in 2021, and we have this enemy from within that's looking to destroy our country in 20 short years. And it's interesting that the Republicans were the ones in power then that galvanized the entire world. And now, America's mayor, Rudy Giuliani, and then we have, the GOP far-right people that are just tearing our country apart. I mean, there's a lot of irony there that's just not lost right now. So looking at Afghanistan and drawing down, I think, from my personal opinion, there's been a lot of time doing that. We can find better ways to project power and diplomacy. And it's not only having boots on the ground, there are other levers that we can pull to improve what's going on there for the Afghanistans.
Once, for me, I just kind of think in terms of the history of Afghanistan in general. It's like Russia couldn't conquer it. The last group of people that were able to do something was Alexander the Great. In 20 years, thousands of lives, billions of dollars. I mean, how much more do we need to give to Afghanistan before they, it just seems like it's a never-ending battle that's just not going to ever.
You say conquer.
Well, conquer is the wrong word for the United States, but I mean,
yes.
but just that area, that territory itself just seems ungovernable. Ungovernable? I guess that's a word today, but impossible to have a centralized government too.
But there are people there. They want to go to school. They want to have, kids grow up in peace and not in poverty and war-torn areas. But also, too, when you look at that, you're right. The history, Russia, the U.S. What comes next? Are you familiar with the Chinese and their strategy to link, Europe and Asia? Afghanistan's a big part of that. The Rust and Belt stuff they want to do, to push resources through, have commerce go back and forth. So it would be a sad tragedy if after all that bloodshed from America and like-minded allies, I'll get that, like-minded allies have shed blood there and fought very hard for the Afghanis, and then the Chinese come in and benefit from all of our hard work and bloodshed. That would be very, very tragic. And beyond the military sense, but also on the economic and social sense.
And then you worked in cyber warfare operations. That's again, I think you've achieved too much, man. Can you tell me about what's going on with all the hacks that have been happening in the United States in general? I mean, have we just been lax as far as putting something, our defenses for hacks and cybersecurity, or do you think it's because the Russians and the Chinese have been more aggressive, or what are your thoughts on all that?
Cyber is very complex, and when I get elected here in November, that's one of the major things I want to work on, cybersecurity. And cybersecurity is beyond just the hacks. So when I look at cybersecurity, I look at the fact that there are a lot of nation states doing a variety of things, and I worked in France, I worked in Europe on this, that there needs to be some sort of a Geneva Conventions on cyber warfare. Because like you're mentioning here and you're alluding to, it's getting out of hand. Everybody thinks about the Russians and the Chinese. Most capable nation states have a cyber capability. Even some of the smaller nation states that don't come to mind. Do I think they were too lax? Do I think they were unprepared? I just think that we're not unified, because there's no mystery here on Capitol Hill. We're more at our throats fighting each other than trying to work on the most challenging things of our time. It makes me think of President Obama, what he said back in the day, that in order for us to really tackle the most difficult challenges of our time, we have to understand that we need to solve them together. We need to come together and perfect our union. Even though we may have different stories, we still have common hopes. And cybersecurity, cyber warfare is something that's going to take the entire nation and like-minded nation states to wrap their arms around this, to figure out the best way to, if you're going to have a military cyber angle, understand, but when you start threatening commerce and critical infrastructure protection, that's threatening the livelihood of nation states. And when you look at NATO with Article 5, an attack on one is an attack on all, it's a very complicated thing to think that in the future that we maybe get drawn into a war because of a cyber attack of great magnitude against one of our allies.
I mean, I was just impressed with the amount of stuff you've done. Then you studied at Stanford. Got a master's in.
You're too nice to me.
Look, all I did was throw rocks at my neighbor. You know, I mean, so I go, wow, he played varsity football, and he was at the U.S. Naval Academy, and then, well, what else? Oh, wow, he served in 2 wars and cyber warfare, and then studied at Stanford, and it's like, it intimidates me.
Well, it's thanks to my mother and my father. My father's the son of a minister. My grandfather was a minister in Accra, Ghana, and also he was an educator there. So our family motto is like, education always. You never stop learning. So I've been blessed to have opportunities. I worked for great, colonels and generals and admirals that pushed me. So when I was leaving France, and my wife and I looked at, we have young kids, they're 12 and 10 now, that what's next for us? Is it to go back to sea as a Navy captain, or is it to turn around and transition outward? As an intel professional, that's a very challenging career, because a lot of it is in, closed doors, top secret stuff. Can't really share things with my family, and you go and you come, kids don't really understand. So we placed the bet on, let's go to business school. Let's apply the best business schools in the country, and then also look at the captain's list, looking at, hey, you're going to promote the captain, but we got into great schools. Stanford's a great university. So we took that route because then the whole family wins. It's been over a decade. We've been overseas. My wife's gone everywhere from Japan to Bahrain, back to the Middle East, to Europe, and I went to Africa alone. That was a good decision for our family, and it worked out well. So I was just honored and blessed to be part of the cohort as a Sloan Fellow at Stanford. Amazing people that have accomplished way more than what I've done, and it's just great to be part of that fraternity.
Your bio said you had a passion for giving back. Talk about that. Giving back to the community in general. What does that mean to you?
Yes, so being that I served for 20 years, I'm accustomed to being a servant leader. And I learned that from going to the Naval Academy and learning, how to lead military people. But being a former athlete, team captain, I've always had the idea as far as how to motivate people and get the best out of everything, but also understand my role. Because again, I was never the best. I'll never say I was the best. I played some phenomenal people. I was just one of the better people. So understanding that and then taking it in the military context, that's how I was giving back. We have our small teams and large teams from a handful of people to 300 people. And most recently in Africa and Cameroon, worked with a number of special forces, and we focus on Boko Haram in the far north. Very complex stuff. And there's, peacekeepers out there. There's, the Peace Corps, like my wife, those people are out there just trying to make sure that they are safe in a bubble to do their development work. But we're the defense angle. Then being a diplomat in the embassy, having my coat and tie, doing diplomacy and going to another part of the country where there's an Anglophone crisis going on, where they're fighting against the French part of the country, and they're trying to rip it apart. Then on the eastern side, there's CAR, Central African Republic, and they have refugees fleeing that country because there's a civil war going on there as well. So giving back to me in that context is what I've done militarily. Now when I look at the community, the reason why I'm running for office is because I saw what was going on. So I've been overseas, picture this, as a diplomat, focused on being the best that America can provide, and talking to our allies and partners to do God's work in a variety of areas globally. But then coming back to this country and then being on campus, pretty much like this beautiful, sunny grass, palm trees, like not a care in the world. Even though, maybe 72 hours ago I was in Africa, dealing with some really complex stuff. Then I started to look at the narratives and the conversations, how there's a lack of civility with public discourse on television, with elected officials, whether it's from the right or from the left, and people are name-calling, itchy Twitter fingers going back and forth. And then I saw how the diplomats, the European diplomats, were browbeated during the House impeachment hearings. And that piqued my interest. Like, wow, that easily could have been me. Because I had a similar mission. When you're around a distinguished visitor, a DV, they say all kind of stuff. And depending on what they say, maybe you go back to the boss, hey, captain, hey, colonel, hey, general, this is what's going on. So I saw that. And then the tipping point for me, like most other people, was seeing the insurrection happen real time. I've lived in the Middle East in Bahrain, where they tore down the Pearl Roundabout, and that country's fighting Sunni versus Shia, and I see what happens after that. We don't want to have that happen in America. So for me, that's where I'm coming back in to serve again, to give back, because as you said before, I've learned a lot of things from working for our nation state and working for our government abroad and domestically, and I want to take those things I've learned and my passion to be a true servant leader. This is not ego. This is not personal gain. I've been a government employee for over 20 years. I'm not independently wealthy. This is for love of country, because I'm fearful of what may happen on the other end if we keep going down this slippery slope.
Why are you a Democrat? What is it about?
Values. Again, my father came over here from Africa to America, welcomed him, got a job at Chevron in the East Bay, worked at the refinery in Richmond. Values. The democratic values that allowed a young African man to come here, marry a beautiful woman, my mother, and then go to the Bay Area and raise 5 different kids and have a chance at the American dream. That's America. That's America. So for me, it's the values of that party that represents, embracing people, common sense immigration laws, but also too, it's the fact that these values, we look at majority rule and we look at welcoming people, and we don't look at naming and shaming people like some people on the other side do. And I say the far right. I don't think that the entire GOP is just despicable. I think the far right of that element is tearing our country apart. As you see right now, there's a schism within their own party trying to figure out where do they go from here? After Trump, where do they go from here?
Is there anything in the Republican Party platform or in general that you like?
You know what? I think immigration reform is something that everybody agrees upon, that our immigration laws just don't work. And as a son of an immigrant, I understand that my father was able to lawfully immigrate here, assimilate to some degree, and then create an opportunity for his son to go to the Naval Academy, to play football against Notre Dame, to turn around and go to Stanford University and be an intelligence officer at the highest levels of our military as a diplomat. He didn't see that when he came here in the 70s. So immigration reform is something we need, because I had classmates at Stanford from India that have a tough time when they came here lawfully to study at Stanford, to get a job, work for a few years, and try to go back, and they're being hounded about immigration, returning, so on and so forth. It's broken. I think Democrats and Republicans both agree that we need to find a way to solve this crisis. Again, work together. We have different stories, but we have common hopes and dreams.
Well, how do you work with the Republican Party when they shut down everything? When Mitch McConnell has an attitude of one-term president?
Again, for me, this is the outside looking in, because I'm not there in Capitol Hill. I'm not there for the backroom conversations. I don't look at the Republican Party as a monolith. I think that's a very immature and unsophisticated way to look at it.
Well, I'm very immature.
And I'm not here to call you names. This is your show. So please don't take it that way. I just think that there are personalities. I hope that there are personalities in the Republican Party. And we saw, Mitt Romney stand up to do the right thing. We saw Lisa Murkowski stand up to do the right thing. Granted, they were pushed to the brink, but they did. And I believe there are other people there. Adam Kinzinger, he's standing up trying to do the right thing as well. So I think, for me, being an independent thinker, someone that looks at each situation, analyzes it, takes somewhat imperfect information, and says we need to make a decision because we can't wait. We can't afford to wait any longer. Our democracy, as we've seen, is very fragile. We almost lost it on January 6th. There were nooses out there. There were people riled up. 6 lives were lost. Guns were shot. Fires were shot. So to me, we can't wait. So I'm willing to talk to anybody and everybody on either side of the aisle for common sense legislation.
Do you think Mike Garcia voted to challenge the Electoral College, and I believe it was Arizona, I think it was, and Pennsylvania? He did that after the insurrection took place. Do you think, would you consider him a traitor?
So is this for the cheap seats?
It's for the cheap seats, my friend.
Because I'm sure you've done your homework.
Yeah.
You're very well prepared, as I can see here. So you've probably seen my video. If you haven't, it's at www.quarteyforcongress.com. It's called The Oath for a reason. So Mike Garcia has forgotten his oath. Mike Garcia has betrayed his oath. So for me, this class ring here, Naval Academy, class of 97, our motto, strength through sacrifice. Mike Garcia, graduated the year after me, 98.
Did you know him? Did you know him?
I did not know him, but as I've talked to classmates, Amy McGrath, who's on board, love her to death.
From Kentucky.
From Kentucky. Elaine Loria, haven't spoken to her yet, but love her to death, class of 97. They're out there, and we understand that he has betrayed his oath. He has embarrassed the Naval Academy. He has embarrassed every man and woman that's ever worn the uniform by the fact that he did what he did. And he knows better. He should know better.
Amy McGrath said that to you? Did she agree with you on that?
I can't put words in her mouth.
Yeah.
But she understands that Mike Garcia needs to go.
The reason I had to bring that up is because someone said that, and I don't know this for a fact, I'm just curious if you've spoken to Amy McGrath, because someone told me that her PAC had given money to Mike. And I don't know if that's the case, but it would kind of shock me because his values are so opposite.
I would find that hard to believe, and I would say that that's nonsense.
Okay.
Because she firmly supports me. I've spoken to her twice now. She's on board with us. Her PAC has contributed to our campaign, and we are lockstep moving forward in a direction. So I do not believe that Amy McGrath gave money to Mike Garcia. That's complete nonsense. Yeah. That is complete and utter nonsense.
It didn't sound
other
like
nonsense.
Me. That's why.
So no, that's not her values.
Yeah.
As a classmate of mine, 1997, as a refined naval officer that's fighting the good fight, I do not believe that. Yeah. But yes, to answer your question directly, yes, Mike Garcia is a traitor.
I want to talk to you a little bit about policy in general. As far as the Democrat goes, I mean, you talk about the Republican Party being splintered, but there's a little bit of a divide between Democrats right now. There's the moderate Biden kind of let's work together kind of thing, bipartisanship attitude, and then there's the Bernie progressives, that are much more like, no, you can't work with the Republicans. Let's just fight and get this done. Where do you stand on that? Where do you see yourself?
That's a great question. And, looking back at what, Bernie Sanders has done with his group and the people, I love him. Feel the burn. I love that.
Yeah.
I love their passion and their enthusiasm. They get out there and they're very passionate about what he's talking about and where he's headed. Yeah. And I'd like to corral some of that because that emotion, that passion gets things done. Yeah. If not, it holds people's feet to the fire to help them get things done. And then when I look at what President Biden's doing, he's definitely on the right track. President Biden, Vice President Harris, they're on the right track. Right. They need more people, and that's where I come in. So the cavalry's coming.
Do you lean more toward the Biden agenda than, say, a Bernie agenda? I'm asking you to pick.
Again, you're asking me to pick. You're asking me to pick, and I'm telling you, I love the passion of feel the burn. Yeah. But also, I love the pragmatic approach that President Biden, Vice President Harris have. Look, we all know that they have some insurmountable odds right now as far as where we're headed with COVID. When they took office, the country was splintered, 3 weeks before they took the oath. So there's a tremendous degree of difficulty for them, but they're turning the temperature down. People are getting their shots, they're getting vaccinated, the economy's starting to come back. The child tax credit, money's hitting people's pockets, which are helping out as well, which Mike Garcia voted against. Makes no sense. He voted against putting money in everyday people's pockets. So this community, Santa Clarita, Valencia, Simi Valleys, Palmdale, Lancaster, saying that, you guys don't need that. Okay, what's the better option, Mike? I don't know, but you don't need that. So you're going to pander to the far right instead of dealing with your constituency. And that's one reason that really motivates me to run for office here, because he does not properly reflect nor represent this community. It's very diverse. It is not a far right community. You don't see Trump flags, all this MAGA stuff lined up on the streets here.
Well, it depends on where you go.
See some of it. You see some of it,
Yeah.
but it's not ubiquitous throughout this community.
Yeah.
So to represent means to be a servant leader. That means to serve the entire population. Reminds me of what Julian Bond said too, that all humanity is diminished when any group is denied rights that are granted to another group. And I don't think Mike's really on board with that.
No, I don't think he is either. But let's talk a little bit about, I mean, like, if you're elected, what's the first thing you want to do in office?
When I'm elected,
yeah,
in November,
yeah,
the first thing I probably want to do is hug my wife and kids and thank them for their sacrifice again to serve again.
Yeah.
And then after that, I call them the Fab Five. It's my mother, it's my godmother, it's my aunt, my two other aunts, 5 fabulous black women up in the Bay Area.
Yeah.
That's my core. That kind of helped me understand. I talked to them through a lot of stuff to get me to this point. To thank them, my campaign manager, so on and so forth. But on Capitol Hill, to your point, the legislation, what do I really want to do? There's 3 significant pieces to me.
yeah,
The first one is domestic security. And domestic security to me encompasses democracy, voting rights. If we don't have, it's almost like the military, if you're not able to defend an area and provide security, there's no way the Peace Corps can go out there and do their God-loving mission.
right.
There's no way you can have development. There's no way you can sit down and have democracy, have conversations with people, because you're not safe, you're not secure. So we need to have security within our borders. Like last week Friday, where those 2 knuckleheads in Sacramento had 50 rounds, 50 guns, 15,000 rounds of ammunition, 5 pipe bombs, looking to do
Perfectly
rapid.
normal.
So January 6th was not an anomaly. So, security, domestic security. The second piece of that, cybersecurity. Like, oh, that's too Guernsey. No, it's not. Cybersecurity is very complex because you need education. You need STEM education. That goes back to relief for people. You don't need to go in debt because you want a graduate degree. Lifetime of debt, that makes no sense. We need cyber professionals. So we need to train our kids, men and women, to go out there to learn things very technical, because when you look at immigration too, immigration law, you can't get enough H-1B visas in here for all the cybersecurity jobs that we need today, let alone tomorrow. The third piece is energy security. People are like, oh, we're fighting all these wars for oil, this and that. Energy security goes well beyond that. To me, energy security is what President Biden, Vice President Harris is trying to do with infrastructure, transition from the 20th century economy to a 21st century economy. You saw me, I pulled up in a minivan, a gas guzzler, but it's a Honda, great efficiency,
Okay.
but we need an EV. We need electric vehicles.
Yeah.
That needs lithium ion. There's vast deposits here in Southern California, the Salton Sea. California, Nevada, Colorado, Arizona, vast deposits. So to me, energy security is tapping into that and having the technology and the expertise so we can go on and secure ourselves. And that talks to the climate as well. Because climate change, if we have these gas guzzlers and fossil fuel, that doesn't help out. Santa Clarita, it's going to be 99 today. Is that normal? It's like 99 almost every day. And then I have a friend from Fresno. It's like triple digits every day in Fresno. That's not normal. That talks to the climate. So energy security is tied to climate change. It's tied to immigration reform. It's tied to education. There's so many different things that feed into those 3 major platforms. If we do them right, then our economy and our country is, again, the global leader. And we're doing great things beyond our borders, but also working with our partners and allies.
Do you consider yourself a compromiser or a fighter for issues? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do know what you're saying.
Okay.
So, to be honest, I know my wife's probably listening. I'm definitely a fighter, but I fight the good fight, and I understand how to work with other people. There's no way I could have successfully been a diplomat for 5 years in Europe and in Africa if I didn't understand how to work with other people. Now, does that mean I'm going to fight every single thing and just be that hard-headed person that can't work with other people? No, I'm a team player. Again, I'm the third of 5 kids. I'm a middle child. So I understand that I'm not the biggest and the strongest, but I need other people to accomplish objectives. So I understand how to work in those areas. And then when we win in November and we go to Capitol Hill, I will fight for this community every single day, primarily on those three major issues, but also ensuring that the people here in Santa Clarita Valley, Antelope Valley, Simi Valley as well, that they benefit from the legislation that we create to put money into their pockets, to make sure that their kids are educated for tomorrow's economy. It's too late to focus on today's economy.
Right.
Things are moving way too fast.
Let me ask you, and we'll just kind of do a little quick lightning round here on some domestic policies. Do you support the Green New Deal?
Can you explain more about what that means?
The Green New Deal, it's an attitude of basically upscaling buildings to where they're more energy efficient, to encourage more electrical powered vehicles in general. I mean, the Republicans want to say, oh, you're going to make it impossible to eat a hamburger because you're going to limit beef or something like that. It's not really true, but I guess in general, do you support the idea of the Green New Deal, which is basically I'm not explaining it very well. Damn
No, you're good. Climate change is real.
Yeah.
We're here.
Yeah,
Climate change is real. And to make it even more personal, I was in Paris when Secretary John Kerry was doing the shuttle diplomacy back and forth for COP21. Now, I wasn't directly involved in that, but as being that, it was a large post, but there's a lot going on there. I saw how hard he worked. I saw how hard his team worked. I saw how hard Ambassador Jane Hartley worked, and they got that across the goal line. I know they didn't do that in vain. So climate change is real. I believe in that, but also I believe in real legislation. So the stuff you're talking about, I don't think there's any legislation around that.
Well, it's not official legislation. It's more of, of a general philosophy, I guess is the best way to put it.
So I believe climate change is real, and part of that third triad, energy security, deals with climate change. And personally speaking, my family and I, we love the outdoors. We love to go, snowboarding, skiing, hiking, so on and so forth. So I want my grandkids to be able to see real snow and play in the snow with their grandfather. So I'll do everything in my power to make sure that is a reality in the near future.
Do you think Obamacare needs to be fixed, or do you think Medicare, or do you support the idea of Medicare for all or a public option? Tell me what your feeling is on health care.
Okay, so again, I spent 2 decades in the military. You're throwing out a lot of these terms here. Can you just specifically tell me, what are you asking me?
Well, Medicare for all would be the government pays for everything. Obamacare itself, some would say works really well. Others would say it's flawed. It has some problems.
So the Affordable Care Act.
The Affordable Care Act, yes. Excuse me.
Okay.
Or public option, which is some people, including Biden, have supported the idea of a public option, which is the idea of a non-profit government agency that could supply health care to someone that needs it, with the belief that it would force the private agencies, private insurance companies, to have to bring down their costs, because the government run public option would ensure that.
So, Stephen, why are we even debating this right now?
I'm not debating. I'm asking.
We're in the midst of a 100-year global pandemic, which is real.
Right.
Some people deny it. Science is there. Body count's there. It's real.
Right.
So for me, I start with healthcare is a human right.
You believe that? I
believe healthcare is a human right. So when we look at healthcare as a human right, not only healthcare, but affordable healthcare. Because we all come from different stripes.
Right.
I'm not independently wealthy, so affordable health care is something that's very important. So the Affordable Care Act, the Obama administration did the best they could to roll out what they had. I believe it needs to be strengthened. I believe that people should have the option. Again, we're not computers. It's not binary 1 or 0. The people need to have the option. If you want additional health care, you want to go to the private side, by all means, go there. But there's a public option that will give you your basic necessities, because we're in the midst of a global pandemic.
Yeah.
I would hope that it would be affordable for people to get vaccinated time and time again, and they get checked out to make sure they're not passing this horrible virus on to their loved ones.
Do you support the idea of legalizing marijuana?
Great question. Whether I support it or not, I don't think that's really a big deal. It's legalized here in California. As a military professional, as a military professional, and I spent my entire, since 1992 until 2018 in uniform, it's something I never partake in, but It's legalized. I see what it's doing. We're decriminalizing it.
Yeah.
We're decriminalizing it because when you look at that, who's been hurt by that? People of color. Black and brown communities have been destroyed because of the criminalization of marijuana. So when we decriminalize it and we legalize it, what are we doing to get the people that were sent to jail for 10 years, 20 years, 25 years? Are they being released? So I would focus more on that. Since it's decriminalized in certain states, then those people that went to jail for those offenses should be released ASAP.
Yeah.
Full stop.
Okay. As far as a candidate goes, I'm sure you have some specific ideas about what you want to do for this community, for this valley, for this district. What are those? What are you going to do for the district specifically that would make someone want to vote for you?
You know, I'm starting to talk to more and more people in the community and understand where they're at. First and foremost, and this may sound, cliche, it's leadership. And we both agree here that Mike Garcia has not been a great leader for this community.
Oh, it's been terrible.
Mike Garcia has not been a great representative for this community. Mike Garcia has pretty much turned his back on a large part of this community and has pandered towards Simi Valley, Simi Hill, some people there, as he's going extreme right to get dollars, cozying up to Kevin McCarthy and Devin Nunes and the far right so that he can try to stay in office knowing that his seat is the most vulnerable seat in the House in the entire United States. So when you look at what I want to do, I want to be a servant leader for this community. And what does that mean? That means uniting the community because there's fragments. Simi Valley is not like Antelope Valley. No. Palmdale, Lancaster, as you know, is completely different. Edwards Air Force Base, military brethren there, than Simi Valley. And then right here in Santa Clarita Valley is completely different than Antelope Valley. So I think having a leader in that's willing to go through all those communities and speak with people and bring them together and unite them. And also I noticed that when Mike Garcia came into office, it seemed like all of the lower ballot seats turned Republican.
Yeah.
And from what I've heard from talking to people, that trying to find a way that when we win in November to down the ticket to support other candidates, Democratic candidates, independent candidates that are looking to help this community and work with all people. That's first and foremost what I want to do. Secondly, the child tax credit is a step in the right direction. COVID has hurt a lot of families. My family alone, 18 months and counting, working from home, wife with 2 kids. It's very complicated and exposed some of the fissures in our government as far as the digital divide has grown even greater.
Yeah.
Working on that, local communities have been impacted. So putting money in their pockets, closing that digital divide, but also making sure that they're prepared for the 21st century, meaning education. We need our young people to be educated for tomorrow's economy to compete and do well, because if you look at these millennials, they were hit by the housing crisis. Crushed. Then you have the global pandemic right now. Crushed. So where do they stand? I want them to be hopeful, not hopeless. And that means having a leader that they can rally around, that can be energizing, that they can see, yes, he's speaking the right things, he's doing the right things, he's walked the right path in life, and we want to get behind him.
Tell me about your motivation to run. You talked about the insurrection. That was kind of an inspiration to do it. Did anyone ask you to?
No.
No one asked you at all?
And listen to this.
Yeah.
So, again, my Fab Five, plus my younger brother, Quaye Quartey, can't leave him out. Talking to them, speaking to him, but also, venting at home, like most people. Like, you watch a ball game, and like if you're a Suns fan, and what happened? You're up 2-0, next thing you lose 4-2 to the Bucks. Cursing and yelling at the screen. That's what I was doing during the global pandemic, as I saw my diplomats being browbeated during House impeachment hearings.
Yeah.
And it just kept going up further and further and further, and then the insurrection was where the dam broke.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm like, I need to do something about that.
All right, so we need to clarify some stuff here. Do you live in Santa Clarita?
Yes.
You do. You have a house here in Santa Clarita.
I live in Valencia.
You live in Valencia.
Live in Valencia.
What about this La Jolla house that you have listed to sell for?
No.
You don't have a house in La Jolla?
Did not own in La Jolla. We rented the home. So, again, overseas in France. My family moves from France to Palo Alto because I already got accepted by Stanford, deferred for a year.
Right.
I went to Cameroon by myself for a year as my family was in California. come to Stanford, 1-year program as a Sloan Fellow. Then we moved to San Diego to move closer to my wife's family because she's a great soldier, moving all around the world with us.
Yeah.
So at least let her come back, see the grandma, can see the grandkids, so on and so forth. So we rented in La Jolla, and then we realized that, oh my gosh, housing prices are out of control. And then we looked around, between the Bay Area and Southern California, San Diego, and this is a great community. It has everything for us, and this is a way for me to give back to my wife and my kids, who went everywhere without question with me.
When was this that you made the decision to move here?
When I made the decision to move here?
Yeah.
Good question. We bought our home in late May, so sometime before late May we decided to move here.
Okay.
Because we could not afford to buy a home.
Had you decided to run for Congress at that time?
Have I decided to run for Congress? I was doing research to run for Congress. Now, I understand research means I'm going through stuff as far as what I want to do, why would I want to do it, what makes sense, talking to the Fab Five, talking to my brother, and then also reaching out to a variety of people, consultants that have run campaigns before. And what does that mean? That's me sending my resume and my bio. Hey, this is who I am, this is what I'd like to do, what do you think about that? Can you give me a call? Sending out to dozens of people, and only a handful responded, and that's part of my core team. So then the decision here to move here is because I can give back to my wife. Affordable housing, we own our own home here. Great, blue ribbon schools for my kids. They're 12 and 10. They can go here and have some stability. We moved 6 times in 4 years. Jeez. Complete household moves.
Pull that down.
That's the military way. But now, after all this time, I owe it to my wife to have some stability to my kids. It works for them. So you're alluding to the fact that I moved here to run for Congress.
No, I'm asking.
You're asking. I'm going to answer your direct question.
Okay.
I did not move here to run for Congress.
If you don't win, are you going to stay living here? Are you going to move again?
We're not looking to move again.
Okay, so Valencia is now your home.
Valencia is our home. This is the next chapter of our life.
Okay.
Again, Stephen, we moved 6 times in 4 years.
Yeah.
I think my wife would leave me, but hey, we're going to move again. Okay, you can move. Here's some luggage. We'll help you, but the kids and I are going to stay here.
Well, I mean, look, the one thing this city, this district seems very sensitive about is the term carpetbagger.
Do you know the history of that word?
Yes, I know exactly the history of it.
Really? Can you tell your viewers?
Yeah, the history of the carpetbagger was people that would come into districts right after the Civil War. They used a carpet bag to carry their supplies. That's where the term carpetbagger comes from. And they would basically manipulate things to get into office in different ways.
Who called whom a carpetbagger?
I don't know.
See, there's more to that story.
Yeah.
So the story has racial undertones to it.
Okay.
So you're right on what you said. So the North versus the South.
Yeah.
The North wins. The Union is united. The South is destroyed, decimated, because they can't have free labor. Slavery's gone.
Right.
So then Northern Union soldiers say, I'm going to go down to the South because there's opportunity and help them rebuild. And the Southerners welcome the Northern Union soldiers. By all means, come down here. This is great. You're helping us get on our own feet. But then they realized that the Northern Union soldiers were very friendly to the African Americans there. The Southerners didn't like that. What are you doing? Now you're bringing your way of life down here. And that's what we started calling them carpetbaggers. Because, yeah, it's the carpet they're holding with their bags. But it's because they're changing their way of life culturally. So there's racial undertones to that. So then as more and more came after the Union soldiers, they're just opportunists that came down. Like, I'm coming down here, quick book and going to Congress.
History aside, I don't use the term as a racial, epithet.
But people need to understand the root of that word and where it comes from. It's beyond just the 20th century understanding of, carpetbaggers, so now you move in and you don't have any ties to the district.
Well, but it could be argued, like you said yourself, Mike Garcia is vulnerable. And if you're looking at running for Congress and you're just going to pick some place to go, if I was somebody that wanted to run for Congress, man, I am not, but if I was, I would go, well, this district seems like the place to be because he's so vulnerable, and he voted for the voted against the Electoral College, and he's not been paying attention to his constituency and the way they vote and things like that. It seems like a perfect place to come in to run for Congress. You see what I'm saying?
Understood.
You may say that you are here permanently, but I think the average person, from appearance's sake, would say he's an opportunist.
And I think like what you were talking about earlier, look at my background.
Yeah.
And you look at the trajectory this guy was on, from Naval Academy, naval officer, travel around the world, top secret clearance, Stanford Business School, and I was on the track, private equity, finance, making money, for-profit stuff. Then why did he get off that lucrative track and say, I want to go again to get a government green check and serve again? I would look at that. What is his motivation to do that? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Servant leader. So it's not something that it's for personal gain. It's not for profit. It's love of country and to serve again. Because look, I do not take lightly what happened on January 6th, nor do I take lightly what led up to January 6th and what has happened since. And if people are like, they're trying to whitewash this now, like, this was just, gathering of people, it was really mild, trying to rewrite history. Like, no. That was very violent. People were threatening the lives of the VP. They had a noose outside, hang Mike Pence. Yeah. Mitt Romney is on TV running away. You got a black cop there trying to distract people to save Mike Pence and his family. That was very real danger. Narrowly missed. So, say what you will about it. Love of country. I'm here to serve, and I believe that I offer the best opportunity to get Mike Garcia out of office and to unify this community and to do greater things.
Have you been involved with any of the Democratic clubs out here?
I've met with a few of the clubs privately in people's homes, so we're starting to do that now in this community. We've done a lot. We've done some here in Santa Clarita Valley, looking to get out to Antelope Valley and also Simi Valley as well. Again, my thing is to go community to community and just meet people and talk to them like we're talking right now.
What is your fundraising? Congratulations on the amount of money you raised. That was pretty impressive. You finished second to the Democrats as far as raising money goes. Where did all that money come from? I went on the FEC report and they didn't have a breakdown of the donations, so I'm wondering who your biggest donors were.
So second, my understanding is that we are for a month period, we raised the most money by any Democrat in CA 25.
Okay, I could be wrong.
So our 5-week haul, thank you very much, is credited to my team, my campaign manager, Jesse Brooks, and my call time manager, Ben Rodriguez. A very small core team, and we're just making calls, connecting with people. I think that our story, my message is resonating with people, and where did the money come from? From California. I'm a native Californian.
But I mean, are they large donations? Are they small donations? Who's your biggest donor? Do you know?
The biggest donor, again, these are people in my immediate network, people I've known since I went to school in the Bay Area, people I played football with, people from the Naval Academy, like I said, Amy McGrath, people from Stanford Business School, and people I served with and served under. And interestingly enough, they're not all Democrats. They're not all registered Democrats. There are people that come from different walks of life, and some are independents, some are Republicans, but they identify with Quaye the person, Nancy and Quaye the family, and say, look, we believe in what you're doing, and we will contribute to your dream and your goal. However, stay true to yourself, and that word comes in independent thinker. Look at policies and do the right thing, and don't be a rubber stamp for anybody. Okay,
so let me ask you directly. I have seen it firsthand. This district has a problem with what they call carpetbaggers. If someone turned to you and said, look, you're a carpetbagger, what would you say to them?
I'd first say, let's not use that term. Like we just talked about this.
Right. I know. So, I'm curious, because you're going to get that. Okay, you're going to get that from some Democrats out here and everything like that, and just go on Facebook and you'll see that they
Facebook really.
Well, I'm just using that as an example.
That's your source?
No,
I mean,
sir,
I'm an intellectual professional. Sources and methods.
I'm talking
Facebook. Oh my gosh.
No, sir. What I'm respectfully is what I'm telling you is my opinion based on what I've seen in the Democratic clubs. And the Democrats that I hang out with in general, there is a problem with people coming from outside the district to run for this district. And somebody might accuse you of doing that. So without using the term carpetbagger, what do you say to somebody that says that to you?
And I look at my story. A veteran that served for over 2 decades in combat in various locations for his country, that is on a lucrative path for personal gain, who decides to serve again. We live here.
Okay.
And we're running for office to unite this community and to do greater things locally, but also to safeguard our democracy. So let's think less about how you got here, because the Santa Clarita Valley, it's an area of transplants. There's not many people that were here when the city was first created. There's a lot of people moving from South Central LA, North LA, and other parts of the country to come live here because why? Just like us. Great schools, affordable housing, safe community, welcoming people.
All right, I want to ask you about something. This is the awkward question. I want to ask you about an ad that you ran that I saw actually on Facebook, where it talked about the 333 votes that separated Mike Garcia in the last election and allowed him to win. The way the ad was pictured or put together, there was Mike on one side, there was you on the other side, and then you talked about the 333 votes.
Yes.
Okay, you weren't running, my friend.
Yes.
That ad implies that that's your 333 votes. That, I mean, Chrissy Smith won that, was the one that earned those votes. So don't you think that was a little misleading? I mean, how do you respond to when someone says that?
When people look at that and they think I'm misrepresenting the truth, I would never claim victory for someone else's loss. That's a loss.
Okay.
I'm here to win.
Okay.
I have a track record of winning. So I'm answering your question.
Okay.
So when you look at that, say it's misleading, I'm letting people know that this is clearly a vulnerable seat. That Mike Garcia won by the skin of his teeth. But also, think about this. There's 35,000, from my understanding, 35,000 registered Democrats that voted for President Biden, who had a 10 percentage point victory here with Vice President Harris, that did not return and vote for said person. So that graphic, there's picture tells 1,000 words, but there's a lot to that graphic and a lot to that story beyond that. But I am not claiming, I'll never say I claim victory. I'm not claiming victory for a loss. That doesn't make any sense.
No, but I mean,
that doesn't make any sense.
Can you see?
It's almost comical.
Can you see, though, how it might be perceived that you're trying to take credit for that?
If you're going to Facebook, and I'm not saying Facebook is the most
your
credible source of credit.
Yes.
Got it. But on the surface, if you're not really willing to activate a lot of brain cells here, you can superficially say, "Oh, he's claiming victory for a loss." But then when you look at Quaye Quartey, the person, and my track record that you said coming in, very impressive, so on and so forth. Do you think I'm going to claim victory for a loss that I didn't participate in? I had no way to impact? No, sir, I'm not doing that. There's more to it. So let's read past the first graphic and look at the information behind that and the message and the story we're trying to tell.
Well, I'm not.
And there's no way you can dodge the fact that 35,000 people voted for President Biden but chose not to come back in on the representative race. That's hard to ignore.
No, it is something that's
and there's a story behind that as well. So 333, that's, again, very superficial understanding of what happened in the race.
So I'm immature and superficial.
I'm not calling you names. I'm not sure why you're applying this to yourself. You're asking me questions.
I'm a narcissist, man. I'm not the only one that saw that as a kind of deceptive ad. Now, you can say that you can break it down and go, well, this is what I'm really saying, and I don't actually say it. But, people glance at ads, they see things. Not everybody can tell you who ran for Congress last time,
Stephen, I looked at your background. You're a deep thinker. You've been doing this for a while.
Too long.
You write, you publish, you have talk radio, you do your research on people, you ask very provocative questions, very leading questions. You're a deep thinker. I know you looked at the ad initially, it's kind of deceptive. Then you read through, I see where he's going with that. So I would think that other people would be just as diligent as you to look beyond the superficial ad and say, okay, what else is here? What else is here? There's a lot of ways to capture people's attention, but then where's the substance? And the substance is where the story is, less so the graphic.
Well, I'll tell you honestly, and I try not to opine too much on the show, but I do think that ad was deceptive, and I think you owe Christy an apology, to be honest with you. But we'll move on. I understand what
you're saying. It's interesting. So I owe an apology for losing, or an apology for what?
The deceptive ad. I understand what you're saying, okay? But to me, that feels politician talk. You know, I mean, when you know,
Really?
you're kind of dancing around it a little bit. And I don't mean to harp on it so much. It's just you have such an impressive record as a person, and your service and stuff like that. That ad really felt like a low blow. You know what I mean? And some would say that, I actually saw someone post something that said something like, you know, well, his deception worked with his fundraising. And the reason I'm harping on, I guess, is because it doesn't match your character from what I've seen of your bio. You know what I mean? That's what's sticking out to me about it. Again, I'm not the only one that saw it. It's kind of deceptive. So you're getting quiet. So
I'm just processing because I'm surprised that the ad was so sensitive to you. Where
well, Christy's a friend. I'm not going to hide that.
And this is a nonpartisan open show.
It is meant to be. Yes.
You're showing a little favoritism. And you brought up her name, and you're defending her here, other than asking the question, giving a response, and going from there.
Well, I'm opining. I'll give you that.
I'm surprised that you're doing that. I'm not going to harp on the ad. I'm not going to make any apologies for that.
Okay.
Again, there's substance behind what we're doing and why we're doing that. And I understand that there's a small group here, a small unified group behind her, and they've been here for quite some time.
Yeah.
And they're doing a variety of things to try to push her over the top. And hopefully other people out there are open-minded to look at other alternatives and really look at people for who they are. And you start jabbing a little bit at my character, which I'm not going to get defensive on, but I think when you start talking about people's character, you really have to know who they are if you want to question someone's character.
Well, again,
and I know you do your homework, and you're very diligent, so I'm not going to hold that against you, but I can clearly see that you're a bit defensive for her, and she's not here. It's you versus me, one-on-one. I didn't bring anybody here.
I'll give you that. Maybe I shouldn't have opined about it, but to me, it just, like I said, it stuck out as something that bothered me. But let's move on.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Let's move on. We digress.
Yes. Let's give me your elevator pitch. Why someone should vote for you? Just give me like you've got 30 seconds, or you've got 1 minute. I'll give you a minute. Tell me why someone should vote for you.
Why should they vote for me?
Yeah.
Because I have a career record of being a servant leader. I served our country honorably for 20 years, and I'm looking here to serve again. I recognize and understand where our country is at, where our community is at. It's not safe. Just 2 years ago, there's a shooting here at Saugus High School. Domestic security is a core part of my platform, something I believe in. I have skin in the game. I've done things internationally, and I've done things domestically to protect our country, and I'll do it again. Also, I believe that I'm a leader that unifies people. People love to work with me, work for me, work around me, because I'm the type of person that can bring people together in a way that is productive and constructive for lasting and enduring results, and also because I'm a problem solver. As an intel professional, you have to solve problems. Al-Qaeda, ISIS, and other things out there, cybersecurity, those are ginormous problems facing our nation and other nation states and our communities. So that's a good reason.
We're going to go to Ryan's question. Ryan is my 10-year-old son. He gets involved with, he always comes up with a question for our guests. And he was really excited when I told him that you had fought in 2 wars and had done cybersecurity and stuff. So his question is this.
Hey Quaye, do you have a top secret clearance? And if so, can you tell me something top secret?
So Ryan, thank you very much for the question. Thank you very much for taking a look at my background, and that's awesome. I love to encourage young people to look at these bios and listen to people and get involved, because it inspires them to do greater things. So yes, I've held a top secret clearance. I'm no longer active right now, but a top secret clearance for over 20 years, and top secret means that there are other caveats to it, different sections of classified material. I cannot talk about anything classified right now because I've signed non-disclosure agreements that last 25 years and 50 years. So if you're around 50 years from now, find me somewhere. You can bring me a warm blanket, and I'll tell you a secret or two.
You might do it. I want to hear something. I mean, like, can you tell me what's going on in Area 51?
You know, interesting you mentioned that. As an intelligence professional, U.S. intelligence professional, the most highly guarded stuff is stuff looking into our country. looking at American citizens or looking at what we have domestically. Internationally, I mean, there's a variety of things that are less sensitive, but I don't know. I've never inquired. I'm not the least bit curious. There's a plethora of issues internationally we have to deal with that does not pique my interest. I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, with your resume and things like that, could you get me into Area 51?
I think if I tried really hard, I can find someone that may have access to that.
Okay.
That can maybe
I'm gonna
help you take a picture outside of Area 51.
No, I want in. I
don't think I can even get in. If you get in and you see something there, it might spook you out and you'll never sleep again. You know, do you really want to live with that?
Yeah,
and then poor Ryan, his dad's got PTSD for going to Area 51. Hopefully you got health care.
He's screaming about
what's going to happen then?
He's screaming about aliens invading or something like that. So, who's better at running a war, Clinton or Bush?
Again, the Christian in me, I'm not looking to pass judgment on anybody.
Okay.
Commander-in-Chief, they both done a great job, and my job is to follow lawful orders, and that's what I've done. That's what other shipmates and soldiers and airmen and Marines have done as well.
What's your favorite movie?
God, that's a great question. You know, one that I keep going back to is Forrest Gump.
Really?
I love Forrest Gump. It's such a well-told story.
But have you ever really broken it down as far as the story goes, how conservative the politics are in it? Have you ever thought about that?
You know, I'm not a political creature.
Yeah.
It's when I watch a movie, it's for entertainment and pleasure.
Yeah.
I'm not looking to break it down. Like, as an intel professional, I don't watch, a lot of these intel spy chase movies. Going, that's not real. You can't do that. That's crap.
Right.
I don't want to be that guy. But Forrest Gump is such a great story of a kid that we look at that's not like the rest of us, but it goes through history and does some amazing things, almost accidentally, but he's got such a great heart. Mm-hmm. He's got such a great heart, and he's so respectful, and he's got great character. I love that story.
Favorite musician?
I was just talking to a friend of mine about this, and I'm kind of old school, so going back, I think one of the greatest hip-hop groups that I've known, Tribe Called Quest.
Oh yeah, I'm with you on that.
Quest.
I'm so with you on that.
Tribe Called Quest, changed my life. Fife Dog, Q-Tip, Droby, A-E-I-O-U. I mean, it's just a phenomenal group that when I was in high school, and they just stood the test of time, and they did things the right way.
What's your first concert?
I'm not really much of a concert goer, but I've gone to a concert with a former girlfriend, Janet Jackson, and she was going nuts.
Janet Jackson was your former girlfriend? Words matter, man. Words matter.
Words do matter. Sorry, I spoke a little too fast there. No, Janet and I did not date. I just wasn't available at the time for her.
Okay.
But no, a girlfriend of mine took me to a Janet Jackson concert, Oakland Coliseum, and she was grooving. She enjoyed it. She loved it. But for me,
all right.
Not really into concerts.
Can you give me something top secret? It's going to be a recurring thing. I'm going to try and throw you.
I hear you. I hear you. But again, I just don't. I just see myself getting fitted for an orange jumpsuit and my kids crying, "Why, Daddy? Why, Daddy? Just came back." So I'm not going to go there.
Star Trek or Star Wars?
We love Star Wars. Our family's into Star Wars.
Okay. All right. Finish the sentence. Donald Trump is
possibly the worst thing that's ever happened to America.
Nice. Can you give me something top secret?
Orange jumpsuit. You can fit it for two.
Who would you like to have dinner with? Anybody alive or dead?
If I had to think about it, to be honest, I think Jay-Z would be an interesting person to have dinner with.
I gotcha.
And why is that?
Because he bring Beyonce.
You're trying to get me in trouble. First Janet, now Beyonce?
Yeah.
Where's your mind at, man? No, because look at his story.
Yeah.
That's the American story. Mm-hmm. That's the American story. And the mere fact that he has not disassociated himself from his community. He went back there to uplift Brooklyn. Nets, commerce, business, billionaire status from selling records. And you listen to the lyrics, Jay-Z would be interesting. I would love to have a coffee or a meal with him just to pick his brain and better understand where he's coming from and where he's going, especially where our country is. Sure. Very divided. It being that he's a billionaire African-American coming from selling drugs to selling records. He's got Beyonce, but he still embraces the African-American black and brown communities.
Yeah.
Now, how is he able to float in that area, billionaire status, yet stay credible on the street? I would love to sit down with him.
What in a war between Godzilla and Batman, who would win?
Oh, Godzilla, hands down.
I was going to say, that is the correct answer.
Batman cannot be Godzilla.
Batman is a badass, but let's face it, it's Godzilla.
Yes.
Favorite cartoon character and why?
You know, cartoon character. That's great. You know, what was the guy's name? There's the only black superhero with the
Black Lightning?
Black Lightning, yes.
Oh, yeah.
The only guy there. You have the Legion of Doom, you got Superman, Batman, all those guys there. Hall of Justice, he was the only guy there. Didn't have a big role, but I love the fact that he was there.
Yeah.
He was super fast, he was skillful, but, you know, underutilized.
I liked, I read it, I remember when the early Black Lightning comics came out, and then they were really gritty. They were really, really gritty about the ghetto.
Yes.
And dealing with drug dealers and stuff like that.
Jeez.
And it was really intense. I mean, so like my mom.
How old were you reading? How old were you?
10. I was 10.
That's heavy stuff for a 10-year-old.
Yeah, they kill one kid, a high school kid, in the story that the Black Lightning's alternate identity is a teacher, and they hang him from the hoop of a basketball.
Come on, man. Jeez.
And that's in a comic book. You know, I mean, you talk about how gritty it can be and things, but I mean, it's really great stuff. I always
think Marvel's going to come back and recreate that and have a better storyline? Because we had Black Panther passed away.
Black Lightning's DC.
Yes, okay, DC Comics.
Marvel.
Okay.
They did a Black Lightning TV series, but I didn't think it was anything like as good as the comics were. Who's your biggest hero?
Great question. There's been a lot, but it's hard not to say my parents for different reasons. Yeah. You know, my father passed away young, 56. My mother's still alive in the Bay Area. But as far as the foundation that they gave myself and my brothers, that's something that's propelled me throughout life. And there's been people along the way that has reinforced those family values. Like my high school coach, Bob Laddister. Great man, done great things. And then other people I served in uniform.
Well, what is the contact info if somebody wants to get involved with your campaign? Do you have a website you want to give out or anything like that?
We do. If you go to www.quarteyforcongress.com, that is QUARTEY for Congress.com. You can find us there. You can see the launch video. You can see the Twitter feed. You can see the Facebook stuff. You can also donate generously as you like. Taking all donations, but more importantly, find a way to connect with us because it's bigger than a campaign, and we like to talk about it as a movement to safeguard our democracy and bring civility back to Capitol Hill, to where politicians are working together to solve the greatest challenges of our lives, and instead of being at each other's throats and then badmouthing each other on Twitter or looking at Facebook and looking at some very suspect source information.
What is your best evil villain laugh?
Oh, yeah.
I like that one. That's good. Now give me a joke. Can you close with a joke for us?
I can close for a joke. Okay. So, as you know, my history traveling around the world. This one usually does well overseas. You know, the Queen's Knights. You know, what do you think? What is their favorite fish? The Queen's Knights.
No idea.
By George, the swordfish.
There you go.
Oi, the swordfish.
Well, Quaye, I enjoyed our conversation a great deal. I wish you much luck in the election.
Thank you very much.
Talk Santa Clarita likes to do debates sometimes.
Yes.
If we are able to pull something together before the primary comes around, would you be willing to participate?
Yes.
Absolutely.
By all means. By all means.
Terrific.
Thank you very much for the soft invite.
So it's what it is, literally. It's like, well, maybe we'll make it happen. I don't know. But I wish you much luck in the election. It's been a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you very much.
And we hope you guys enjoyed the talk.
You've been listening to the Talk of Santa Clarita. Listen to us on iTunes, SoundCloud.com, YouTube, and Stitcher. Barring a life event getting in the way, a new podcast is available every Tuesday. Questions, comments, and show ideas can be sent to thetalkofsantaclarita@gmail.com. You can also call or text us at 661-505-8672. That's 661-505-8672. Follow us on Twitter at The Talk of SC or on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at The Talk of Santa Clarita. You can also visit our website by going to www.thetalkofsantaclarita.com. This has been a production of Radio Free Santa Clarita Incorporated, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. To donate, go to radiofreesantaclarita.org/donate. Radio Free Santa Clarita, on the net and on the air, and we're very much aware.
Any questions?